enthusiastic yes for this bill, not a qualified yes. To Senator Tomassoni's point and others, of course, this is a big bill with a lot of things in it and some elements that I wouldn't necessarily support and some things that are missing that I would hope would be in there. But I think Senator Bingham made the point earlier, and others, Senator Uyghur. This bill represents an investment that will put thousands of people to work at a time that we very, very much need it. So let me echo the thanks to Senator Pappas for her hard work and her incredible responsiveness, and Craig Janicic as well, and his responsiveness to me and my calls, and Stephanie James and Casey Mumm, also very responsive to me, and working through some of the questions and technical issues we had with a couple of things in the bill. I'm especially happy, of course, that we're going to be funding the B-Line bus rapid transit and the D-Line bus rapid transit. The B-Line, for those who aren't familiar with it, connects all the way across the Lake Street, Marshall Street spine from Minneapolis all the way to downtown St. Paul, or should I say from downtown St. Paul all the way to Minneapolis. And the D-Line would connect to Brooklyn Center all the way to the Mall of America. Very, very, very important for people who are on the front lines, who are working in those service jobs, who still have to take public transit even in this time. These people are doing essential services that we all rely on. These are incredibly important investments in their jobs, their lives, their mobility, their ability to maintain a living and support their families. And there's a little bit for some planning, some beginning early work on the E-Line, which will connect the University of Minnesota all the way to Southdale. And so that's very, very important as well. As to there is significant sum of money for roads and bridges, and that's a good thing. That's no substitute for putting permanent, sustained, long-term resources on the table so that we don't have to go through this incredibly elaborate dance getting leveraged by certain individuals or certain caucuses at certain other chambers, and here we are in October and finally passing a bill, and much of the construction season has passed. So those investments in our decaying roadway infrastructure, both local roads as well as the trunk highway system, is extremely important, and I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see the bill constructed the way it was. I know Senator Newman has some complaints, which I actually have a little bit of a quick response to. There was some discussion about a diversion of $180 million. This was a subject that came up earlier this year, and the Department of Transportation pointed out there was, in fact, no diversion from the Trunk Highway Fund. It was simply a part of the unreserved Trunk Highway Fund balance, which was available for appropriation. There was agreement to put some of it in state road construction, as well as in all the other parts that we support in order to support the roadway program, including operations and maintenance, debt service, agency management, buildings. We have to actually do those sorts of things if we're going to be able to build roads and bridges. We have to support the organization, and we have to build the essential infrastructure, especially around operation maintenance, truck stops, things like that. That work has to continue, and that's productive work too. That puts people in jobs. It represents construction. These are the folks who are taking care of the roadways, whether that's salting and plowing or repairing, or our maintenance garages, building the agency buildings, that sort of thing. Very, very important. On the subject of the small bridges, I think that's a fair subject for conversation. I do know that there was an effort to cap the grant program at $7 million in the $30 million general obligation bonds that would go to local bridges, and that language was accepted, but for some reason, on our side, for some reason, it was rejected, and I don't completely understand that. But if, in fact, we want to create a small bridge program that limits the size of the bridges to $7 million and under versus just a contribution to a given bridge of $7 million, we can have that conversation, and that's fair enough. I also wanted to just touch base quickly on skate parks. They were mentioned briefly by someone as a bad thing. They're actually a great thing, and I'm happy to see, and thank you, Senator Pappas, for letting us get a toehold, and we're modeling the skate park grant program on Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks, by the way, is receiving $2 million in the bill. skate parks are receiving $250,000, so just getting a start on establishing a program. Members, most young people drop out of team sports at age 13 for a whole bunch of different reasons, and those who are involved in skateboarding are involved in a youth development activity that's every bit as important and beneficial as any other form of youth development sporting activity. Has tremendous benefits along the lines of interracial and intercultural communications and connections, friendship, understanding, adherence to hard work and fidelity to excellence, thinking outside the box, being a part of a community, speaking up for others, positive interaction with authority figures, and taking on leadership roles. So we're going to hear more about that in coming years because it has become an important activity for many, many young people in our communities all across the state. It's now an Olympic sport, and we have several international champions that hail from Minnesota, so I'm glad to see that in the bill as well. So thank you, Mr. President and members.